social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origins of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the people will be forced to defend themselves against the world minority of the world revolutionaries and will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose spirits will be from the moment within direction and leadership and the anxious for an ideal. But without knowledge, where to send its adoration will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into the public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. For anyone who's just joined this call, I am reading something by Myron Fagan, and this is about the Illuminati and the CFR. When Mazzini died in 1872, Pike made another revolutionary leader named Adrian Lemmy. His successor, Lemmy, in turn, was succeeded by Lenin and Trotsky, then by Stalin. The revolutionary activities of those men were financed by British, French, German, and American internationalist bankers, all of them dominated by the House of Rothschild. We are supposed to believe that the international bankers of today, like the money changers of Christ's day, are the only tools or agents of the great conspiracy. But actually, they are the masterminds behind all the mass communications media, leading us into believing that communism is a movement of the so-called workers. The actual fact is that both British and American intelligence officers have authentic documentary evidence that fact is that both international liberals, operating through the international banking houses, particularly the House of Rothschild, have financed both sides of the war and revolution since 1776. Okay, so that says World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and subsequent wars were paid for by these parties. They paid for both. They paid both sides of the war just to manipulate. Those who today compromise the conspiracy, the CFR in the United States and the RIIA in Britain, direct our governments whom they hold in usury through such methods as the Federal Reserve System in America to fight wars, such as Vietnam, created by the United Nations, so as to further Pike's Illuminati plans to bring the world to that stage of the conspiracy when atheistic communism and the whole of Christianity can be forced into an all-out world war within each remaining nation as well as on an international basis scale. This is a little long, folks, but I will continue on. The headquarters of the Great Conspiracy in the late 1700s was in Frankfurt, Germany, where the House of Rothschild had been established by Meyer Amschel, who adopted the Rothschild name and linked together other international financiers who had literally sold their souls to the devil after the Bavarian government's exposure in 1786. The conspirators moved their headquarters to Switzerland, then to London. Since World War II, after Jacob Schiff, the Rothschild's boy in America, died, the headquarters of the American branch has been in Harold Pratt Building in New York City, and the Rockefellers, originally protégés of Schiff, have taken over the manipulation of finances in America for the Illuminati. Okay, so that tells you the Rockefellers are definitely an enemy to freedom and liberty in this country and around the world. In the final phases of the conspiracy, the one world government will consist of the king dictator, the head of the United Nations, the CFR, a few billionaires, economists, and scientists who have proved their devotion to the great conspiracy. All others are to be integrated into a vast conglomeration of mongrelized humanity, actually slaves. Now let me show you how our federal government and the American people have been sucked into one of the world takeover plot of the Illuminati Great Conspiracy, and always bear in mind that the United Nations was created to become the housing for the one world so-called liberal conspiracy. The real foundations of the plot of the takeover of the United States during the period of our Civil War. Not that Weishaupt and the earlier masterminds had ever overlooked the New World. As I have previously indicated, Weishaupt had his agents planted over here as far back as the Revolutionary War. It was during the Civil War that the conspirators launched the first concrete efforts. We know that Judah Benjamin, chief advisor of Jefferson Davis, was a Rothschild agent. We also know that there were Rothschild agents planted in Abraham Lincoln's cabinet who tried to sell him into a financial dealing with the House of Rothschild. But old Abe saw through the scheme and bluntly rejected it, thereby incurring the undying enmity of the Rothschilds, exactly as the Russian Tsar did when he torpedoed the First League of Nations and at the Congress in Vienna. Investigation of the assassination of Lincoln revealed that assassin Booth was a member of a secret conspiratorial group. Because there were a number of highly important government officials involved, the name of the group was never revealed and became a mystery, exactly as the assassination of John F. Kennedy is still a mystery. But I am sure it will not remain a mystery for long. Anyway, the ending of the Civil War destroyed temporarily all the chances of the House of Rothschild to get a clutch on our monetary system, such as they had acquired in Britain and other nations in Europe. I say temporarily because the Rothschilds and the masterminds of the conspiracy never quit. They had to start from scratch, but they lost no time getting started. Shortly after the Civil War, a young immigrant who called himself Jacob Schiff arrived in New York. Jacob, a young man with a mission for the House of Rothschild. Jacob was the son of a rabbi who was born in one of Rothschild's houses in Frankfurt, Germany. I will go deeply into his background. The important point was that Rothschild recognized in him not only a potential money wizard, but more important, he also saw the latent Machiavellian qualities in Jacob that could, as it did, make him invaluable functionary in the great world, in the great one-world conspiracy. After a comparatively brief training period in the Rothschilds' London bank, Jacob left for America with the instructions to buy into a banking house, which was to be the springboard to acquire control of the money system of the United States. Actually, Jacob came here to carry out 4 specific assignments. One, and most important, was to acquire control of America's money system. 2, find desirable men who for a price would be willing to serve as stooges for the great conspiracy and promote them into high places in our federal government, our Congress, and the U.S. Supreme Court and all federal agencies. 3, create minority group strife throughout the nations, particularly between the whites and the blacks. 4, create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, for Christianity to be the chief target. Earlier, I stated that Jacob Schiff came to America with orders by Rothschild to carry out 4 specific directives. The first and most important was one, to get control of the United States monetary system. Let's trace Schiff's steps to accomplish that directive. As a first step, he had to buy into a banking house, but it had to be the kind of house that he could absolutely control and mold for that primary objective of entrapping our U.S. monetary system. After carefully scouting around, Jacob bought a partnership in a firm that called itself Kuhn and Loeb. Like Schiff, Kuhn and Loeb were immigrants from German Jewish ghettos. They came to the U.S. in the mid-1840s, and both of them started their business careers as itinerant pack peddlers. In the early 1850s, they pulled their interest and set up a merchandise store in Lafayette, Indiana, under the name of Kuhn and Loeb, servicing the covered wagon settlers on their way west. In the years that followed, they set up similar stores in Cincinnati and St. Louis. Then they added pawnbrokering to their merchandising pursuits. From that to money lending was a short and quick step. By the time Schiff arrived on the scene, Kuhn and Loeb was a well-known private banking firm, and this is the firm Jacob bought into. Shortly after he became a partner in Kuhn and Loeb, Schiff married Loeb's daughter, Teresa. He then bought out Kuhn's interest and moved the firm to New York.